On a beautiful day in the heart of the bustling city, a billionaire named Richard Bennett was rushing through the streets in his luxury car. He had just finished an important meeting and was heading home to prepare for another. Richard's life was a continuous cycle of business deals, high-profile meetings, and extravagant parties. He had everything a man could dream of: mansion, luxury cars, private jets, but what he lacked was true happiness. Richard never believed in bizarre stories or miracles. To him, everything that mattered was wealth and power. He firmly believed that only money and influence could bring real happiness. However, everything would change one afternoon when he encountered a young boy. The boy was sitting by the corner of the street near a small cafe. He was dressed in ragged clothes, his hair falling messily over his face, but his eyes gleamed with an unusual light. Richard, as always, paid no attention to such people. However, when his car came to a stop at a red light, the boy suddenly stood up, walked up to the car window, and softly said, "Sir, could you spare me a coin?" Richard was taken aback. The beggar children he usually passed were silent, but this boy had a different gaze, one filled with determination and an eerie calm. Richard looked into the boy's eyes and felt an unusual sensation, something that felt starkly different from every encounter he'd had before. He hesitated for a moment, then reached into his pocket and handed the boy a coin. "Thank you, sir," the boy said gently, then suddenly bent down and added, "You won't regret it. I promise you'll receive something you never expected." Richard raised his eyebrow, puzzled. What could this boy possibly mean? He smiled softly, thinking that the boy was just another poor child with a wild story. But there was a strange feeling in his chest, as if the boy spoke the truth. Days passed, and Richard soon found himself in the midst of a major business crisis. One of his subsidiary companies faced severe financial difficulties, and his phone rang nonstop with panic calls from investors. Despite exploring every potential solution, Richard found himself at a loss. Everything he had built could be destroyed in an instant. While sitting in his office, overwhelmed and anxious, an unexpected call came through from an unfamiliar number. Richard answered, unaware that this call would change everything. "Hello, Mr. Bennett. I'm from a financial firm, and I have good news for you. The financial problems at your company have been completely resolved. We've just finalized a major investment deal, and you no longer need to worry." Richard stood up, astonished. What kind of joke is this? This is not a joke. It's real. We've secured a massive investment, and everything has been settled for you, the voice on the other end assured him. Richard could hardly believe what he was hearing. Everything had happened so quickly and effortlessly. He was in disbelief. Could this really be happening? Could the boy's promise be coming true? After hanging up, Richard felt a strange shift in his mind. He remembered the beggar boy he had met just a week earlier. Could the promise the boy made be coming true now? The next day, Richard returned to the spot where he had seen the boy. He found him sitting there once again, still wearing his ragged clothes, his eyes still gleaming with the same mysterious light. This time, Richard didn't just plan to hand over another coin. He walked up to the boy and asked, "Was it you? Did you help me?" The boy looked at him and said nothing, just nodded quietly. "But how could you do that? How did you know what I needed?" Richard asked, once again feeling questions building up in his mind. The boy smiled, his voice soft. "I didn't do anything. I just kept my promise. You helped me, and I just wanted you to receive something good in return. Sometimes all it takes is a simple promise, and miracles will follow." Richard stood there, perplexed by the boy's words. He felt something profound in the boy's promise, something he had never considered before in his life. Belief in the simple things, in the power of a sincere promise, and how it could change the course of a person's life. From that day on, Richard was no longer just a billionaire obsessed with wealth. He began to open his heart to others, helping those around him and seeking deeper meaning in life. Over time, his life transformed entirely. Not only did his career prosper even more, but he also found true joy and happiness. That beggar boy, with his simple promise, had altered Richard's life forever. And though Richard would never know the boy's true name, he would forever remember that promise one. That was simple yet powerful enough to create a miracle in the life of a man who had lost faith in everything.